Hello and welcome. In this episode, we discuss Gregory Bovino's apparent dishonesty under oath. In November last year, the Northern District of Illinois released its opinion granting an injunction, preliminary injunction at least, against ICE's and Border Patrol's excessive force against protesters and the press in Chicago, Illinois. On October 6th, a class action was filed mainly on behalf of reporters, but also protesters. The court defined the class as all persons who are or will in the future non-violently demonstrate, protest, observe, document, or record a Department of Homeland Security immigration enforcement and removal operations in the Northern District of Illinois. They identify two subclasses: religious exercise subclass, which it comprised all persons who are or will in the future engage in religious expression in the form of prayer, procession, song, preaching, or proselytizing at Department of Homeland Security, Immigration Enforcement, and Removal Operations in the Northern District of Illinois, and a press subclass comprising all persons who are or will in the future engage in news gathering or reporting at Department of Homeland Security, Immigration Enforcement, and Removal Operations in the Northern District of Illinois. In other words, if you are a clergyman, if you are a priest, and you want to engage in prayer, you are free to do so without being molested by the Department of Homeland Security. If you're in the press, you have the ability to document, film, report on ongoing DHS activities in the Northern District of Illinois. And of course, if you're just a member of the public, a citizen of the United States, and you just want to peacefully protest, observe, document, or record the DHS in its activities, you have a First Amendment right to do that as well. So on October 6th, I said the class action was filed on behalf of quite a number of parties. It's a class action, right? Typically more than 10, but a lot of newspapers, press, TV, protesters, etc., and at least one priest who was shot in the head with a pepper ball while he was praying outside of a DHS facility. And then on October 9th, there was an oral hearing, so 3 days after the class action was fired, regarding a temporary restraining order. That's a sort of emergency injunctive relief to enjoin conduct while the court figures out what to do. And the TRO was granted. Then on October 17th, they added to the TRO an order requiring all the agents to wear body cameras and to have identification available while they're engaged in their enforcement activities. Then on November 5th and 6th, when the TRO was about to expire, they had a preliminary injunction hearing. And on November 6th, at the end of that oral hearing, the judge issued an oral preliminary injunction enjoining this type of activity. And then on November 20th, last year, issued its order. Well, basically, the judge first clarifies that this case is about First Amendment and Fourth Amendment issues. It has nothing to do with policies, immigration policies of either administration. It's simply being viewed from the evidence presented by both sides on First Amendment and Fourth Amendment grounds. Interestingly, the judge finds the defendants, which in this case is ICE, Department of Homeland Security, completely uncredible. She literally states that they are lying on the record, mischaracterizing their evidence, and essentially exceeding their authority and using excessive force unlawfully. For example, she writes, some of the videos that were submitted by the defendants, presumably, right, would be defendants' best evidence to demonstrate that the agents acted in line with the Constitution, federal laws, and the agency's own policies on use of force when engaging with protesters, the press, and religious practitioners. But a review of them shows the opposite, supporting plaintiffs' claims and undermining all of defendants' claims that their actions toward protesters, the press, and religious practitioners have been, as Bovino has stated, more than exemplary. She gives a whole bunch of examples, and we're going to look at one of those specifically. We're going to look at Bovino's testimony under oath during his deposition, wherein he overtly contradicts the video evidence that he is presented with. He does it a number of times. We're just going to use one example just for fair use purposes, but there is definite frequent examples of Gregory Bovino contradicting what is overtly shown on video footage with which he is presented. It's a little bit troubling, to be honest with you, that a federal agent would basically just completely outright deny what is clearly the contrary on the video. It's boggling. But here's a couple of examples that the judge cites in this case, issuing the preliminary injunction preventing ICE and DHS from excessive activities and sort of hassling and molesting protesters in the press. Defendants cited the court to 2 videos of agents outside the Broadview facility the evening of September 19th, 2025. In those videos, agents stand behind a fence preparing to lead the facility's gates and disperse what defendants described as an unruly mob. The scene appears quiet as the gate opens, revealing a line of protesters standing in the street holding signs. Almost immediately, and without warning, agents lob flashbang grenades, tear gas, and pepper balls at the protesters, saying, "Fuck yeah," as they do so, and the crowd scatters. This video disproves defendants' contentions that protesters were the ones shooting off fireworks, refusing orders, and acting violently so as to justify the agents' use of force. They admitted that on camera and in testimony that the explosions on the September 27th video were not fireworks at all, but they were the flashbangs that they themselves were setting off. Here's another great example. September 26, 2025. There's a video from an agent's body camera. It shows a line of agents standing at least 30 feet away from protesters outside the Broadview facility on Harvard Street. Despite this distance, the agents start yelling, "Move back, move back," to the protesters and then shoot pepper balls and tear gas at them without any apparent justification. While an agent wrote in his use of force report that protesters were becoming increasingly hostile, the body camera video shows that the protesters were simply standing there when agents first deployed any force. Back in October 3rd of 2025, there was a video, again, issued by the defendants, so by the Department of Homeland Security, and it was offered into evidence, presumably to show that agents driving the streets face constant danger from cars ramming them on purpose. But instead of leaving this impression, the video, which almost entirely consists of a view of the back seat of the car and some dialogue about how the agent's body cam is on, and he is still recording, suggests that the agent drove erratically and brake-checked other motorists in an attempt to force accidents that agents could then use as justifications for deploying force. That is a federal judge saying that the evidence submitted by DHS contradicts their testimony that they were being rammed by protesters, and rather that the agents themselves were deliberately brake-checking, attempting to cause accidents to justify using force against protesters. In other words, provoking and goading and basically creating havoc to excuse a subsequent use of deadly force. The judge wrote that these are not the only inconsistencies and incredible representations in the record, and she did have others that I haven't quoted, by the way. While defendants may argue that the court identifies only minor inconsistencies, they don't seem that minor to me, but anyway, she's just speaking hypothetically. Every minor inconsistency adds up, and at some point, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to believe almost anything that defendants represent. I have to read that part again because it's insane. This is a federal judge writing about testimony given under oath and submitted into evidence in the Northern District of Illinois. She writes, while defendants, that is the Department of Homeland Security, including, Kristi Noem and a whole bunch of other defendants in their administrative and official capacities, while defendants may argue that the court identifies only minor inconsistencies, every minor inconsistency adds up. And at some point, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to believe almost anything that defendants represent. That is just unbelievable. For example, one of the ICE agents testified that people held shields with nails in them. And this, of course, to justify the use of tear gas and excessive force, right? But video demonstrates that at least some of these shields were merely pieces of cardboard. None of the shields had nails in them, and nothing warranted the aggression that the agent showed at the protesters holding these shields. Nothing. Nothing, she writes, warranted the aggression that the agent showed against the protesters holding these shields. In Albany Park, agents wrote in their reports that DHS publicized that a bicyclist threw a bike at agents. But video from the event makes clear that agents actually took the protester's bike and threw it to the side after they had deployed tear gas. The court then addresses Bovino's testimony, a clip of which I am excited to show here in just a minute. Turning to Bovino, the judge writes, the court specifically finds his testimony not credible. Bovino appeared evasive over the 3 days of his deposition, either providing cute responses to plaintiff's counsel's questions or outright lying. In another video shown to Bovino, he obviously tackles Scott Blackburn, one of plaintiff's declarants. But instead of admitting to using force against Blackburn, this is the clip we're going to show, Bovino denied it and instead stated that force was not used against him. Bovino admitted in his deposition that he lied multiple times about the events that occurred in Little Village, it's in Chicago, that prompted him to throw tear gas at protesters. The court finds that defendants' widespread mischaracterizations call into question everything that defendants say they are doing in their characterization of what is happening at the Broadview facility or out in the streets of Chicagoland area during law enforcement activities. The court finds that defendants' widespread misrepresentations call into question everything that defendants say they are doing in their characterization of what is happening at the Broadview facility or out in the streets of the Chicagoland area during law enforcement activities. So basically, you can't trust a single one of the force reports filed by the DHS, according to this judge, So what the hell is going on in Minnesota? I'll let you guys think about that.
All right, so Mr. Bovino, you've had an opportunity to look at the video. Do you see yourself?
I did see myself.
Okay. Do you recall the events that are depicted in the video?
I remember the events that took place in the video.
Okay. There is an older gentleman who exchanges words with you, right?
It appears, yes.
Yes. And in the beginning of that video clip, he is expressing his disagreement with your presence in Chicago, and he doesn't like the fact that you are instructing him to move down, right?
No.
I mean, am I right or wrong?
You're wrong.
Okay. What do you think he's doing?
That individual is failing to follow instructions to vacate the area.
I see. Now, the area in question is behind a guardrail, right?
There was a cement barrier. There's not a guardrail.
All right. It is behind a barrier of some stripe or another, right?
It appears so.
Yes. He is standing behind that barrier, right?
It appears so.
And your decision at the time was that you did not want anybody standing behind that barrier speaking or being present in any way, and you instructed them all to leave, right?
Check the form. Video speaks for itself.
No.
Not true. Did you see on the video that tell you this older gentleman is named Scott Blackburn? This gentleman turned to comply with your directions, and he also expressed vulgarity and obscenity in your direction as he was complying, right?
Objective form.
No.
That didn't happen. You didn't see that on the video.
I didn't see what you said.
Right. And then you got over the barrier, tackled this man to the ground, and arrested him, right?
No.
Did you not tackle him?
No.
Okay. So if somebody were watching that video and thought that you tackled the older gentleman whose name is Scott Blackburn, you'd say, don't believe your lying eyes. That's not what happens on the video.
I wouldn't say that.
Would you say that that is not what's depicted on the video?
I wouldn't say that either.
Do you acknowledge that you're tackling Mr. Blackburn on this video?
No.
Okay. What do you think you're doing to Mr. Blackburn?
I'm imploring Mr. Blackburn, or whoever that individual was, to comply with leaving the area and to comply with instructions.
Okay. Are you making physical contact with him?
There was physical contact.
Are you applying force?
At that point, no.
Did you at any point in this video apply any force against Mr. Blackburn?
No.
Okay. So if somebody thought that you were applying force against Mr. Blackburn, they'd be sadly mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.